My daughter sent me a list of gifts for her wedding, and when I read it, I felt the air leave my lungs. A house, a luxury car, and a trip to Greece. All written in her perfect script on a cream-colored paper that smelled of her expensive perfume, the one I buy her every month. I looked up at Melissa and said, "This is too much. Pick just one of the three things, only one." Her face transformed into something I had never seen before. She jumped to her feet and screamed so loudly that the walls seemed to shake. "You've gone crazy, Mom. I need all three. All three. Or do you want me to be embarrassed in front of all the guests?" Damien, her fiancé, crossed his arms and added scornfully, "All normal parents give decent wedding gifts. What are people going to think of us?" Then I made a decision that would change everything forever. I cut off the $20,000 monthly allowance I'd been giving her for years and canceled the wedding reception that I was supposed to pay for. What happened next made their jaws drop, but to understand how we got to that moment, I need to tell you the whole story from the beginning. I'm sitting in the living room of my small apartment, holding that cursed list in my trembling hands, and I feel my heart breaking into 1,000 pieces. I'm 70 years old, and I never imagined the day would come when my own daughter would look at me as if I were a soulless agent. If you're watching this video, please subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my story of revenge from. I want to know how far it has reached. Melissa is standing in front of me in the ivory dress I bought her last week, and her eyes shine with impatience, not love. Beside her, Damien watches me with that arrogant smirk I've always found fake, his arm slung over my daughter's shoulder as if he already owns her, as if he already owns everything. I swallow and feel my throat closing up. For 70 years I've lived in this world, and for the last 30, I raised this girl alone, the girl who now looks at me with such contempt. Her father died when she was barely 3 years old, and since then I've been a mother and a father. I've been everything to her. Melissa taps her perfectly manicured nails on the coffee table, that annoying sound that signals she's losing her patience. I take a deep breath, trying to remain calm, trying to be reasonable. I tell her, "Melissa, my love, a house costs more than $300,000, a luxury car, another $50,000, and a trip to Europe for two, another $20,000. That's almost $400,000. It's a fortune." She lets out a dry, bitter laugh that makes me shiver. "So what, Mom? Don't I have the right to start my married life with dignity? All my friends are getting incredible gifts. Sophia got a penthouse in an exclusive neighborhood, Carla a sports car and a trip across Europe, and me, I have to settle for scraps." Her words hurt more than any physical blow. Scraps. She calls everything I've given her for 30 years scraps. Damien leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees, and looks at me with those cold eyes that have always given me a bad feeling. From the day Melissa brought him home 2 years ago, I knew something wasn't right with him, but my daughter was in love, or so I thought, and I didn't want to interfere. Now I regret my silence. He says, "Miss Gilda, with all due respect, you've been giving Melissa $20,000 monthly since she finished college. That's almost 10 years. It adds up to over $2 million. Are you telling me you can't make one more effort for your only daughter's wedding?" His tone is condescending, as if he's explaining basic math to a dull child. I feel the blood boiling in my veins, but I keep my expression neutral. They don't know anything. They don't know who I really am. They don't know where that money comes from that Melissa spends so cheerfully on designer clothes, expensive restaurants, and trips with her friends. To them, I'm just a simple widow living in a modest 2-bedroom apartment in a middle-class neighborhood. Melissa approaches me and kneels in front of my chair, taking my hands in hers. For a moment, my heart softens. I see my little girl, that sweet creature who used to hug me and tell me I was the best mom in the world. But then she speaks, and the illusion shatters. "Mom, you know how much this wedding means to me. It's the most important day of my life." Damien comes from a very well-established family. His parents own 3 successful restaurants and have a beach house. They're giving us a fully furnished apartment as a gift. How am I supposed to show up? Empty-handed. They're going to see me as a pauper, as someone not good enough for them. I slowly pull my hands away from hers. My words come out cold, colder than I intended. "Melissa, I'm offering you one of the 3 things, a house, a car, or the trip. Choose." The silence that follows is deafening. I can see her face go from pleading to sweetness and then to pure rage. She jumps up and backs away as if I'd slapped her. I truly wonder if you were in my place, what would you do? Would you choose to be quiet to maintain peace, or would you dare to face everything to reclaim your voice? I want to know your opinion because every story is like a candle that can light the way for someone else. I can't believe how selfish you are, she screams, her voice cracking. My whole life you told me you would do anything for me, that I was your priority, that you loved me more than anything in the world, and now, at the most important moment, you turn your back on me. Damien stands up too and puts his arms around Melissa, but his eyes are shooting daggers at me. I see how things really are here, Ted, then he says with venom in every word. Melissa told me you were generous, but I see that was just a facade. When it really matters, you show yourself for what you are, a cheapskate who hoards her money like a dragon guards its treasure. I want to scream at them that they're wrong, that for 30 years I've sacrificed myself to the point of forgetting about myself, that I've worked tirelessly to give Melissa everything I never had. But the words get stuck in my throat because deep down, a part of me knows this isn't about love. It was never about love. It's about money, status, and appearances. Melissa walks toward the door, dragging Damien with her. Before she leaves, she turns and throws one last look of contempt at me. You have a week to think about it, Mom. A week to decide if you want to be part of my life or if you prefer to be selfish and lose me forever. The decision is yours. The door slams shut, making the frames of the photographs on the wall vibrate. I'm left alone in the silence of my apartment and staring at that list I still hold in my hands. House, luxury car, trip to Europe, 3 words that have just destroyed my relationship with my daughter. Or maybe that relationship was already destroyed a long time ago and I just didn't want to see it. I get up slowly, feeling the weight of my 70 years in every joint, and walk to the window. Outside, the city stretches out under the gray afternoon sky. And as I look at those streets full of people rushing around, chasing their own dreams and ambitions, I make a decision: no more. I'm not going to be anyone's ATM anymore, not even my own daughter's. I look at the photographs covering my living room walls. Melissa as a baby in my arms, Melissa on her first day of school, Melissa graduating from college with honors. In every image, I'm there, smiling proudly, giving my all for her. But there is something those photographs don't show. They don't show the nights I worked until dawn. They don't show the meals I skipped so she could eat at the best restaurants. They don't show the sacrifices I made in silence. And they definitely don't show the secret I've kept for 30 years. The secret that Melissa and Damien could never imagine because they see me as a simple widow, an older woman living on a modest pension. But the truth is very different. The truth is that I am Gilda Montero, co-founder and CEO of Montero Imports, one of the largest import companies in the region. No one knows, not Melissa, not her friends, not the neighbors in this building where I have deliberately lived for decades. To the world, I'm just Gilda, the little old lady on the 3rd floor. When my husband died 30 years ago, he left me with a small child, huge debts, and a desperation that ate me alive. But he also left me with something else, contacts in the import business and a small capital he had secretly saved. I took that money, barely $15,000, and invested it. I started small, very small. I imported crafts, textile products, simple things that I could sell with a decent profit margin. I worked from home while Melissa slept. I made international calls in the early morning when the rates were cheaper. I negotiated with suppliers in broken English mixed with signs and drawings. It was exhausting. There were times when I thought I wouldn't make it, times when the bills piled up faster than I could pay them, but I kept going. For Melissa, always for Melissa. And little by little, the business grew. I found Richard, an honest businessman who became my partner when no one else believed in me. Together, we built an empire. Today, Montero Imports has contracts with over 50 countries. We employ 300 people and generate millions of dollars a year. But I decided to keep it a secret. I decided that Melissa should grow up without knowing her mother was a millionaire. I wanted her to be humble, to value effort, to understand the meaning of hard work. What an irony. Instead of raising a grateful daughter, I raised a monster of entitlement who believes that money grows on trees. The $20,000 monthly allowance I give her comes from a separate account I opened years ago, an account I manage under my maiden name, so there is no connection to the company. I told her it was money from her father's pension and some small investments. She never questioned where so much money came from. She simply spent it. Designer clothes, handbags that cost more than many families' monthly rent, dinners at restaurants where a single plate cost $200. And I let her. I thought she would eventually mature, that she would find her own path, that she would learn to appreciate what she had. But I was terribly wrong. On Monday morning, after that sleepless night, I pick up the phone and dial Richard's number. He answers on the second ring with his deep, kind voice. Gilda, what a surprise. Everything okay? I tell him what happened. I tell him about Melissa's list of demands, about the humiliation I felt in my own home. Richard listens in silence, and when I finish, he sighs deeply. Gilda, you've been hiding who you really are for 30 years. It's time your daughter knows the truth. You can't keep living this double life. His words echo in my head for hours after I hang up. He's right, I know it, but a part of me is afraid. Afraid of what Melissa will do when she knows the truth. Afraid that she will only see me as a walk-in bank, as an infinite source of money. Afraid of losing her completely. Although, being honest with myself, maybe I already lost her a long time ago. Maybe the girl I love turned into a stranger who only looks for me when she needs something. On Wednesday, I receive a text message from Melissa. It's not an apology, as I had naively hoped. It's a thinly veiled threat. Mom, Damien and I have been talking. If you really can't give us the 3 gifts, we at least need the house and the car. We can postpone the trip, but I need your answer before Friday because we have to confirm with the notary for the deed. I hope you've thought this over. I read the message 3 times, feeling disappointment turn into something darker, something colder. There is no I love you. There is no thank you for everything you've done. For me, there is not even a please, just demands, just pressure, just manipulation. I write and delete 5 different replies before finally sending a single word. No. Her reply comes in seconds. What do you mean no? Are you kidding me? I answer. I'm not kidding, Melissa. I already gave you my answer. All 3, or none. What follows is an avalanche of furious messages. She calls me selfish, stingy, a bad mother, a bitter old woman. Each word is a dagger in my heart, but I don't give in. For the first time in 30 years, I don't give in. On Friday afternoon, someone knocks on my door with loud, insistent pounding. When I open it, I come face to face with Melissa and Damien. This time they are not alone. Behind them are Damien's parents, Henry, a corpulent man in an expensive suit who can't hide his expression of superiority, and Betty, his wife, a thin woman covered in jewelry who looks me up and down as if I were an insect. Melissa pushes the door open and they all walk in without waiting for an invitation. Filling my small living room with their intimidating presence. Tell me whether you have parents, grandparents, or older family members who deserve more respect than they currently receive from their families. Alternatively, tell me if you yourself are going through a situation in which you're not appreciated as much as you truly deserve. Henry sits down in my best chair without asking and crosses his legs arrogantly. Ms. Gilda, he begins with a voice that pretends to be kind but oozes disdain. My son has told us about your situation. We understand that perhaps you don't have the resources to provide Melissa with what she deserves. But this wedding is important. It is the union of our families. We cannot allow it to be marred by financial limitations. Betty nods and adds with a false smile, what Henry means is that we are willing to cover some expenses, but we expect you to at least contribute something significant. We don't want Melissa to feel embarrassed in front of our friends. I feel the blood boiling in me. These people who don't know me at all, who have never cared to find out who I really am, come into my house to judge me, to belittle me, to make me feel inferior. Melissa stands by the window, her arms crossed, saying nothing. She doesn't even defend me. She doesn't even have the decency to look uncomfortable. Damien smiles smugly and says, Ms. Gilda, let's be realistic. You live in this small apartment, you drive a 15-year-old car, you buy your clothes at discount stores. It's obvious that you don't have much, but you could at least make an effort for your daughter. You could take out a loan, sell some things, mortgage this place. There are options. I stare at him, This arrogant man who thinks he can come into my house and tell me what to do with my life, with my resources. And at that moment, I make the final decision. I'm not going to continue with this charade. I'm not going to allow them to treat me as if I'm worthless. I stand up slowly and my voice comes out firmer than it has in days. I want everyone to get out of my house now. There is a stunned silence. Henry laughs nervously. Ma'am, I don't think you understand the gravity. But I interrupt him. I understand perfectly. And I understand that my daughter has chosen her new family over me. So I'll make things easy for all of you. From this moment on, Melissa, the $20,000 monthly allowance you receive is canceled. The wedding reception that I was going to finance is canceled. And my presence at that wedding is also canceled. The silence is now absolute. Melissa looks at me with wide eyes, as if she can't believe what she just heard. What did you say? Her voice is barely a whisper. I repeat every word slowly so there are no misunderstandings. It's over, Melissa. The money is over. The party is over. Everything is over. If you want to marry Damien, go ahead, but I won't be a part of this. Damien takes a step forward, his fists clenched. You can't do that. You're her mother. And I respond with a calm I didn't know I had. Exactly, I'm her mother, not her slave, not her ATM, her inexhaustible source of money without getting anything back, not even respect. Betty lets out a hysterical laugh. This is ridiculous. How can you cancel everything just like that? The wedding is in 2 months. I walk to the door and open it wide. You have 5 seconds to leave before I call the police. No one moves. Melissa looks at me with a mix of shock and rage that I will never forget, and her words are the cruelest she has ever said to me. You're dead to me, Mom. From this moment on, you're dead to me. They leave my apartment like a furious storm, leaving a heavy silence that crushes me against the walls. I hear their voice in the hallway yelling insults, cursing, planning how they are going to socially ruin me. Betty says something about telling everyone I'm an unnatural mother. Henry talks about suing me for some absurd reason, but what hurts the most is Melissa's silence. She says nothing, she just leaves. I close the door and slide down it until I'm sitting on the floor hugging my knees like a scared child. The tears finally come, hot and bitter, soaking my old blouse. I cry for the daughter I lost, or perhaps for the daughter I never truly had. I cry for 30 years of sacrifices that ended in this betrayal. I cry for the broken illusion that unconditional love would be enough. But in the midst of the pain, I also feel something else, something I didn't expect, relief, a strange, liberating relief, like taking off a shoe that has been pinching you for hours. For the first time in decades, I don't have to pretend. I don't have to submit. I don't have to swallow my dignity to keep the peace. I spend the weekend in a haze of contradictory emotions. On Saturday morning, my phone doesn't stop ringing. They are unknown numbers, probably Melissa's friends or distant relatives whom she has already told her distorted version of events. I don't answer any calls. On Sunday, I receive an email from Melissa. The subject line simply says, "Last chance." I open it with trembling hands and read, "Mom, I've thought a lot about what happened on Friday. I'm willing to forgive you if you rectify your attitude. Damien and I have decided to be generous with you. We are no longer asking for the house, just the car. And the trip to Europe, that's barely $70,000. It's the least you can do after everything I've given you over the years, after putting up with you and taking care of you in your old age. If you don't accept, I want you to know that the consequences will be permanent. You will never see me again. You will not know your grandchildren. You will not be a part of my life. The choice is yours. You have until Tuesday." I read the email 3 times, each time feeling a different mix of pain and rage. Everything she has given me, as if allowing me to be her mother, was a favor she did me, as if my existence in her life was a burden she heroically bore. On Monday morning, I go to the central office of Montero Imports for the first time in 2 weeks. It's a modern 10-story building in the financial district, with huge windows and the company logo shining on the facade. I enter through the back door, as I always do, using my special ID that allows me to access without going through reception. In the elevator, I look at myself in the mirror. A 70-year-old woman with deep wrinkles, gray hair pulled back in a simple bun, discreet beige clothing. No one would look at me twice. No one would imagine that I am the owner of all this. Richard is waiting for me in my office with coffee and that look of concern that he has perfected during our 30 years of partnership. You look awful, he says bluntly. I laugh bitterly. And thanks, always so diplomatic. We sit down and I tell him about Melissa's email, about her ultimatum, about how she blames me. Richard shakes his head sadly. Gilda, this girl is lost, and you can't save her if she doesn't want to be saved. It's time for you to think about yourself, your well-being, your future. That afternoon, I make decisions that will change everything. I call my bank and cancel the automatic monthly transfer that I have been making to Melissa's account for almost 10 years. The executive asks me 3 times if I'm sure, as if he can't believe a mother would do such a thing. I confirm each time with more firmness. Then, I call the event hall where the reception was supposed to be. I had paid a $50,000 deposit 3 months ago when Melissa begged me to secure the place because it was the most exclusive in the area. I cancel everything. I lose the deposit, but I don't care. Melissa and Damien can fend for themselves. Afterwards, I call the florist, the caterer, the band I hired. One by one, I cancel all the services I had reserved, and some try to convince me to reconsider. Others simply take note. By the time I finish, it's 6 in the afternoon, and I feel strangely light, as if I had released a weight I had been carrying on my shoulders for years. On Tuesday morning, exactly at 9, I receive a call from a number I recognize. Damien's parents' house phone. I answer. It's Melissa, but her voice sounds different. It sounds nervous. Mom, I need to talk to you. Can we meet? I reply calmly. I'm here. Talk. There's a long pause, then, no, I mean in person, somewhere neutral. There are things I need to explain to you, things you may not have understood well. Something in her tone puts me on alert. It's not an apology, it's another manipulation, but I agree anyway because I need to close this chapter. I need to look her in the eye and tell her it's over. We agree to meet at a cafe near my apartment. I arrive 10 minutes early and sit at a back table, ordering only a tea that I know I won't drink. Melissa arrives on time, accompanied by Damien. Of course, she never does anything alone lately. They sit down across from me without greeting, without smiling. She clasps her hands on the table and looks at me with those eyes that were once my baby's, but now seem like a stranger's. Mom, she begins in a controlled voice. I came to give you one last chance to do the right thing. I know you've been under a lot of stress and that maybe you said things you didn't really mean. Damien and I have spoken with our lawyer. My heart skips a beat. Lawyer? Damien leans forward and says, You see, Ms. Gilda, it turns out that you have been giving Melissa a substantial amount of money for years. That sets a legal precedent. According to our attorney, if you cut off that support abruptly, we could argue economic dependency and sue you for damages. I stare at them, unable to believe what I'm hearing. Are they threatening me with a lawsuit? Melissa continues. We don't want to get to that, Mom. We really don't. But you've left us with no options. You already canceled the event hall, did you know? They called me yesterday. We lost $50,000 because of your childish tantrum. Now we have nowhere to have the wedding. We have no way to pay for it. And we are the laughingstock of everyone. Her voice cracks, but not from sadness, but from rage. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is? Do you have any idea how Damien's family friends look at me? Like a pauper whose mother can't even afford a decent wedding. I'm done, Melissa. I will not give in. I will not give you another dollar, and if you want to sue me, go ahead. Try it. Damien laughs cruelly. Do you really think you can win? You're an old woman living on a pension. We have resources. We have expensive lawyers. We have connections. We're going to destroy you. I look him directly in the eyes and say something that surprises even myself. Try it, Damien. Try it and find out who I really am. There is something in my tone that makes him hesitate for a second, but Melissa gets up and shouts loudly enough for the whole cafe to fall silent. You are selfish and a bad mother. You will regret this. I swear you will regret this. They leave the cafe in a scandal. People look at me with pity, probably thinking I'm a poor old woman abused by her own family. If only they knew the truth, if only they knew. I can't sleep that night again. I stare at the ceiling of my room, replaying the scene in the cafe over and over in my mind. Damien's threat echoes in my ears. We're going to destroy you. Part of me is afraid. Not of the lawsuit, that's ridiculous, and any judge would see it that way. I'm afraid of what I've lost, of the relationship with my daughter, which seems to be broken, beyond repair. But another part of me, a part that has been asleep for too long, is waking up. It's the same part that drove me to build an empire from scratch after being widowed, the part that refuses to be trampled on. At 3 in the morning, I pick up my phone and dial Richard's number. He answers with a sleepy voice. Gilda, what's wrong? Are you okay? I tell him about the legal threat, about the lawyer, about how Melissa and Damien are determined to destroy me. Richard is silent for a moment and then says something that changes everything. Gilda, I think it's time. Time for them to know who you really are. Not to show off, not for revenge, but to protect yourself. Because if they are going to play dirty, you need to show your cards. On Wednesday morning, I'm woken up by the sound of my phone. It's a message from an unknown number. I open it, and what I see makes me nauseous. It's a photograph of me taken yesterday at the cafe, at the moment Melissa was yelling at me. Someone captured it and posted it on social media. The accompanying text says, "This woman refuses to help her own daughter with her wedding. She prefers to hoard her money than see her only daughter happy, share, so everyone knows what kind of mother she is." The post already has hundreds of shares, and the comments are brutal. What a horrible mother. Old people are getting more selfish. Poor girl, she deserves a better mother. My hands tremble as I read comment after comment, full of hatred towards me from people who don't know me, who know nothing of my story. Melissa is publicly destroying my reputation. She is using social media as a weapon to humiliate me, to force me to give in. And the worst thing is that it's working. Some neighbors in my building have already looked at me strangely this morning. This time my voice doesn't tremble. It's filled with cold determination. Do it. Do what you suggested. I want everyone to know who I am. Richard responds immediately. Are you sure? Once that box is opened, there's no turning back. I take a deep breath. I'm sure. I'm not going to hide anymore. I'm not going to allow them to treat me like trash. That afternoon, Richard calls an emergency meeting at Montero Imports headquarters with media representatives specializing in business and some strategic contacts in the industry. The boardroom fills up quickly. I arrive dressed differently than usual, not in my discreet old clothes, but in a pearl gray suit that I had made years ago but had never worn. My hair is professionally styled. I wear the pearl earrings my husband gave me for our anniversary, the only valuables I've worn in decades. When I enter the room, the silence is immediate. Some recognize me because they have seen me in private meetings, but many others look at me with confusion, wondering who this older woman presiding over the meeting is. Richard stands up and speaks in a clear, strong voice. Ladies and gentlemen, many of you know Gilda Montero only by name as the silent co-founder of this company. Today she is here to formally introduce herself. I take the floor, feeling like 30 years of secrets are about to be revealed. Good morning. My name is Gilda Montero, and I am the CEO and majority owner of Montero Imports. 30 years ago, after being widowed, I founded this company with $15,000 and a dream. Today, we bill over $50 million annually and employ 300 families. I have kept my identity private all these years for personal reasons, but today those reasons are no longer valid. I pause, looking at the astonished faces around the table. Some of you may wonder why I'm revealing this now. The answer is simple, because I have realized that hiding is not protection, it is cowardice, and I no longer intend to be a coward. The room explodes in murmurs. Questions begin to rain down. Why the secret? Why now? What changed? Richard raises his hand for silence and continues. As of today, Gilda Montero will publicly assume her role in this company. There will be a press release, interviews, and a formal presentation to the Chamber of Commerce. Meanwhile, somewhere in the city, Melissa has no idea what has just happened. She has no idea that the world she knew is about to be completely turned upside down. That night, after the meeting, I sit in my private office, looking out at the illuminated city through the windows. Richard comes in with 2 glasses of wine. To 30 years of silence, he says, raising his glass. And to the beginning of the truth, I reply. We toast. The wine tastes bitter and sweet at the same time, like this new stage of my life. The next day, the press release appears in all the specialized business media. Gilda Montero, the phantom businesswoman behind Montero Imports, steps out of the shadows. There are photographs of me in the office, interviews where I talk about my trajectory, articles detailing the company's growth under my leadership. It is surreal to see my name and my face everywhere after so long in anonymity. But the most important thing is that now there is a public record of who I am, what I have achieved, my true wealth. Any attempt by Melissa and Damien to paint me as a poor, stingy old woman crumbles in the face of the evidence. On Friday afternoon, I receive a call from a number I don't recognize. I answer and hear a feminine voice, soft and timid. Ms. Gilda? It's Celine, Melissa's cousin. I don't know if you remember me. Of course I remember her. Selena is my late husband's niece, a sweet 35-year-old woman who has always treated me with genuine affection. She comes from a humble family, works as a secretary at a school, and raises her 10-year-old son, Joaquin, alone after her husband abandoned her. Melissa has always treated her with contempt, calling her the poor cousin behind her back. Of course, I remember you, Celine. What can I do for you? She hesitates before saying, Miss Gilda, I saw the news about your company. I had no idea. I wanted to call you because Melissa contacted me a few days ago. She asked me to talk to you to convince you to give her the money for the wedding. She offered me $5,000 if I succeeded. I feel the rage boiling in me again. Melissa is even using her own cousin, offering her scraps to do her dirty work. Celine continues, I told her no, of course, I won't get involved in that, but I wanted you to know. I also wanted to tell you that, well, if you ever need to talk or just have a coffee, I'd be happy to accompany you. I know you must be going through a difficult time. Her words touch me deeply. In the middle of this nightmare, there is someone who cares about me without expecting anything in return. Thank you, Celine. Really, thank you. How about we meet tomorrow? We agree to meet at a small cafe near her house. When I arrive, I find her sitting at a table by the window with her son Joaquin, a thin boy with intelligent eyes who is reading a book while he waits. Celine gets up and hugs me, a genuine hug that makes me feel more loved than anything Melissa has given me in years. We spend the afternoon talking. Celine tells me about her life, her struggles, how she works 2 shifts to keep Joaquin in school, how she dreams of giving him a better education, but doesn't have the resources. Joaquin shows me his book, enthusiastically talking about science and math, about how he wants to be an engineer someday. And as I listen to them, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. I feel like I'm with real family, with people who value me for who I am, not for what I can give them. At that moment, without them knowing it yet, I make a decision that will change their lives forever. On Monday morning, I arrive at the office early with a clear purpose. I call my personal lawyer, Albert, a meticulous man who has handled my legal affairs for 20 years. I explain the situation with Melissa, the threat of a lawsuit, and I also tell him about Celine and Joaquin. Albert listens carefully, taking notes in his leather notebook. When I finish, he sighs and says, Gilda, legally, you are completely protected. Melissa has no case. The $20,000 was a voluntary gift, not a contractual obligation. No judge would side with her. I feel relieved, but Albert continues. However, there is something more important I want to tell you. I have been your lawyer for 2 decades, and I have seen you sacrifice yourself over and over again for that girl. It is time for you to think about yourself, your legacy, what you really want to leave in this world. His words resonate in my heart. You're right. For 30 years, I have lived for Melissa, and look where that has led me. Maybe it's time to change course. I ask Albert to prepare documents to establish an educational fund for Joaquin, Celine's son. I want that boy to have every opportunity he deserves, without the limitations his mother faces due to lack of resources. That same afternoon, the media publishes more articles about me and Montero Imports. One of the reports includes an extensive interview where I talk about my business philosophy, how I built everything from scratch, being a widow and a single mother. The journalist asks me about my family, and I respond carefully. My daughter and I are going through personal differences right now, but I have learned that family is not always blood. Sometimes the true family is the people who value you for who you are, not for what you have. The interview goes viral on social media. Thousands of people comment, most of them supporting me. Many older women write that they identify with me, that they too have been treated like items by ungrateful children. There is a noticeable change in the public narrative. The post Melissa made, humiliating me, is now seen in a completely different light. People comment, "Now I understand why she refused. This woman built an empire, and her daughter just wants to take advantage. What an ungrateful daughter." Melissa must be furious. I can imagine her reading every comment, seeing how her plan to publicly destroy me is backfiring. On Wednesday, I receive an unexpected call. It's Betty, Damien's mother. Her voice sounds nervous, very different from the arrogance she showed when she came to my apartment. "Ms. Gilda, excuse me for bothering you. I was wondering if we could talk, just you and me without the kids." Something in her tone tells me this is important. I agree to meet her at a discreet restaurant the next day. When I arrive, I find her sitting at a back table, elegantly dressed, but with a worried expression she can't hide. I sit across from her and wait. Betty fiddles with her napkin before speaking. "Ms. Gilda, I saw the news. I had no idea who you really were. Henry didn't either. When Damien told us that your family was, well, that they were of modest means, we just believed him." She pauses for a long time. "There's something you need to know. Damien lied to Melissa about our financial situation. We are not rich. We have 3 restaurants, yes, but they are mortgaged to the hilt. We are in debt. The apartment we promised as a gift doesn't exist. It was a lie." I stare at her, processing this information. Betty continues with tears in her eyes. "He thought you had money saved up and that you would eventually give it to them. When you refused, he panicked. That's why he pressured you so much, because he needs that money to pay off his own gambling debts." The revelation hits me like a punch. Gambling debts. My daughter is about to marry a compulsive gambler who is using her to pay off his debts. Betty dries her tears with the napkin. "I tried to talk to him to make him see reason, but he's obsessed. He's convinced that if he marries Melissa, he'll eventually gain access to her fortune. He doesn't love her, Miss Gilda. He just sees her as an investment." My voice comes out cold when I ask, "Why are you telling me this?" Betty looks me directly in the eyes. "Because I'm a mother too. And if my son was being deceived like this, I would want someone to tell me. Melissa is not my favorite person, I'll be honest, but she doesn't deserve this. No one deserves this." I thank her for her honesty, and we separate. I walk the streets for hours thinking about what to do with this information. Part of me wants to call Melissa immediately to warn her, to protect her. But another part knows that she won't listen to me, that she will accuse me of making things up to sabotage her happiness, that she will choose to believe Damien over me. So I make a different decision. I'm going to let things take their natural course. I'm going to allow Melissa to discover the truth for herself, even if it's the most painful way. The days pass and the wedding date approaches. Without the hall I had reserved, without the vendors I had hired, Melissa and Damien struggle to organize something. Through Celine, who maintains minimal contact with Melissa out of family obligation, I learned that they managed to book a small event hall on the outskirts of the city, something far below what Melissa had dreamed of. The guest list was reduced from 300 to barely 80 people because they can't afford a bigger event. The wedding dress Melissa found at a discount store, every detail of her perfect wedding is crumbling, and although a part of me feels sorry, another part knows this is necessary. It's the first time in her life that Melissa is facing the consequences of her actions, the first time I'm not there to rescue her from her bad decisions. Celine visits me one Saturday afternoon and tells me with a certain guilt in her voice that Melissa called her, crying, saying that her wedding is a disgrace, that everyone is going to make fun of her, that this is my fault for being selfish and cruel. That same night, I make an important decision. I call Albert and ask him to expedite the paperwork for Joaquin's educational fund. I also ask him to prepare that other documents. I want to make Celine vice president of human resources at Montero Imports. She has administrative experience, she's smart, hardworking, and most importantly, she is honest and loyal. She needs an opportunity, and I need to have someone I can truly trust nearby. On Monday morning, I invite Celine to my office. When she enters and sees the enormous space, the windows overlooking the city, the elegant furniture. Her eyes widen. Ms. Gilda, this is incredible, she whispers. I have her sit down and offer her coffee. Then I explain my proposal, a stable job with a salary of $5,000 monthly, full benefits, and a guaranteed educational fund for Joaquin that will cover everything from school to university, including postgraduate studies if he wishes. Celine looks at me, unable to believe what she's hearing, and tears begin to roll down her cheeks. Why? Why are you doing this for us? Her voice breaks. I take her hands in mine and tell her the truth. Because for 30 years, I invested in the wrong person. I invested in someone who never valued my sacrifices, and now I want to invest in someone who deserves them, in someone who understands the value of effort, of gratitude, of respect. Celine cries openly now, hugging me tightly, thanking me over and over. And in that embrace, I feel something I hadn't felt in decades. I feel like I'm doing the right thing, that I'm honoring my own effort by sharing it with someone who will truly appreciate it. Celine accepts the offer and starts working immediately. It's amazing to see her flourish in her new role. She has fresh ideas, she genuinely connects with the employees. She brings a positive energy that was missing in the company. Richard tells me one day, while we review reports, "You did well, Gilda, that girl is gold," and he's right. Meanwhile, rumors reach me through acquaintances that Melissa is desperate, that she is asking for loans, that Damien is more irritable every day, that the tension between them is palpable. The wedding date is in 2 weeks, and the chaos is evident. Part of me hopes for a call, an apology, a recognition that she was wrong. But that call never comes, and I learn to make peace with that. I learned that sometimes a mother's love means letting go, even if it hurts. It means letting your child face their consequences, even if you want to protect them, because only then, perhaps, will she learn. There are 5 days left until the wedding when I receive a text message from an unknown number. I open it, and what I read chills me to the bone. "Gilda, it's Henry. I need to speak to you urgently. It's about Damien and Melissa. Please call me." After all, Henry was one of the people who came into my apartment to humiliate me. But something in the urgent tone of the message makes me dial his number. He answers on the first ring. His voice sounds tired and defeated. "Thank you for calling. I know I have no right to ask you for anything after how I treated you, but you need to know something. Damien is planning something terrible." My heart races. What is he planning? Henry breathes deeply before saying, "My son has gambling debts of over $200,000. The lenders are pressuring him. Yesterday, I overheard a phone conversation he had. He's planning to make Melissa sign documents after the wedding, documents that would make her responsible for his debts. And he also talked about putting you in a nursing home once they get married to gain control over any future inheritance." I feel the room spinning around me. "Does Melissa know this?" I ask in a trembling voice. "I don't think so. She's so obsessed with the wedding that she doesn't see anything else." "Ms. Gilda, I know my son is lost. I've tried everything, but your daughter still has a chance. Someone has to warn her." I hang up the phone and sit in the silence of my office, looking at the city lights beginning to turn on with the sunset. I should feel satisfied. I should feel that Melissa deserves this for how she treated me. But all I feel is a deep maternal pain that cannot be extinguished, no matter how much she has hurt me. I am still her mother, and a mother cannot stand idly by while her daughter walks towards the abyss, even if that daughter has betrayed her. I call Albert and tell him everything. He listens in silence and then says, "Gilda, we can stop this. We can have Damien investigated, expose his debts, his plans, but you need Melissa's cooperation, and I doubt she will listen to you." He's right. If I go directly to Melissa, she will think I'm inventing things to ruin her wedding. She will accuse me of being jealous, of being wicked, of wanting to control her life. I need another strategy that will make her see the truth for herself. I spend the whole night awake, thinking, planning, and finally, at dawn, I have an idea. It's risky, but it's the only way. The next day, I call Richard and explain what I need. He is silent for a moment and then says, "Gilda, this could go very wrong. Melissa might hate you even more." I reply with a calm I don't feel. She already hates me. I have nothing more to lose, but maybe, just maybe, I can save her from completely ruining her life. Richard agrees to help me. That afternoon, we hire a private investigator, someone discreet that Richard has used in the past to verify the backgrounds of business partners. We give him all the information we have about Damien, his full name, his data, the clues that Betty and Henry gave us. The investigator gets to work immediately. 2 days later, I receive a thick manila envelope full of documents. I open it with trembling hands, and what I find inside is worse than I imagined. Damien not only has debts, he has a history of scams, small lawsuits from ex-girlfriends who accuse him of stealing money, even a temporary restraining order that he managed to have lifted 3 years ago. He is a financial predator, and Melissa is his next victim. There are photographs of him in casinos, receipts for loans from loan sharks, emails where he argues with his creditors. And most chillingly, a text message he sent to a friend 2 weeks ago, which says, verbatim, "Don't worry, bro. Once I marry this idiot, her millionaire old lady will have to cough up the cash. And if not, we'll put her away and take everything." I read those words over and over, feeling the rage consume me. He calls my daughter an idiot. He plans to use her, destroy her, and then discard her. I can't allow it. No matter how much Melissa has hurt me, I can't let this man ruin her life. But I need to be smart. If I simply show her these documents, she will say I invented them, that I fabricated them. I need her to discover the truth in a way she cannot deny. I call Celine and ask her for a huge favor. I need her to invite Melissa for coffee, to tell her she wants to make peace before the wedding, that she needs to talk to her woman to woman. Celine hesitates. "Miss Gilda, Melissa hates me almost as much as she hates you. I don't know if she'll accept." I tell her, "Try it. Tell her you have important information about Damien, something you overheard by chance, but don't tell her what it is. Let curiosity kill her." Celine accepts, although I can hear the nervousness in her voice. That same afternoon, she calls me back, surprised. She accepted. She said she'll meet me tomorrow at 4 p.m. at the cafe near her apartment. My plan is underway. The next day, I settle into that same cafe 2 hours before the meeting. I sit at a discreet table in the corner, wearing dark glasses and a scarf over my hair, disguised enough so that Melissa won't recognize me if she walks in. At 4 o'clock sharp, Celine arrives first, visibly nervous. I have given her clear instructions on what to do. 10 minutes later, Melissa walks in. She's thinner than I remember. She sits across from Celine without even greeting her properly. "What did you want to talk about? I'm very busy with wedding preparations." Celine swallows and begins. "Melissa, I know we're not close. I know you've always seen me as the poor cousin, but we're family and I can't keep quiet. There are things about Damien that you need to know." Melissa laughs bitterly. "Let me guess, my mother sent you, right? She offered you money to tell me lies about Damien and ruin my wedding." Celine shakes her head. "No, Melissa, this has nothing to do with your mom, although it should, because she is worried about you, even if you don't believe it." Melissa hits the table with her hand. "My mother is only worried about her money. She doesn't care about me." The whole cafe falls silent. Looking at them, Celine remains calm and pulls an envelope from her purse. She places it on the table between them. "Before you say anything else, look at this. A friend who works at the courthouse gave me access to public records. This is information that anyone can get if they know where to look." Melissa takes the envelope with trembling hands. She opens it and pulls out the documents. I can see from my corner how her face changes color as she reads. First confusion, then disbelief, then horror. They are copies of the civil lawsuits against Damien, the restraining orders, the debt records. All legal, all verifiable, all real. Celine continues in a soft voice. "Melissa, this man has a history. He has done this before. He seduces women with money, manipulates them, uses them to pay off his debts, and then abandons them. 3 women before you went through the same thing." Melissa shakes her head, tears starting to fall. No, this must be a lie. Damien, he has told me 1,000 times." Celine takes her hands, and for the first time, I see something close to compassion between them. "Melissa, real love doesn't ask you to cut off your mother. Real love doesn't pressure you to get money. Real love doesn't lie to you." The words float in the air of the cafe like undeniable truths. And I, from my corner, Watch as my daughter finally begins to wake up from the illusion she has been living in. Melissa stands up abruptly, putting the documents in her purse. I need to talk to Damien. I need him to explain this to me. Celine stops her. What if he lies to you? What if he manipulates you like he's done all this time? But Melissa is already leaving the cafe, practically running. Celine looks at me from her table with an expression of concern. I give her a discreet signal that it's okay, that we let things take their course. I pay for my coffee and leave the place without anyone having recognized me. That night, my phone rings at 11 p.m. It's a private number. I answer and hear sobs on the other end of the line. Ma. Melissa's voice is barely a broken whisper. Mom, you were right. You were right about everything. And for the first time, I feel something akin to hope in my heart. Maybe, just maybe, there is still salvation for us. But I know the path will be long and painful because broken trust is not repaired with a single phone call. It takes time with actions and a genuine effort to change. And I'm not sure Melissa is ready for that yet. I don't respond immediately to Melissa's call. I stay on the line, listening to her sobs on the other end, feeling my heart torn between the maternal instinct to rush to comfort her and the need to protect myself from more pain. Finally, I speak, and my voice comes out colder than I intended. What happened, Melissa? She breathes brokenly between sobs. I went to confront Damien with the documents. At first, he denied everything. He said they were lies, that someone was trying to ruin our happiness. But I insisted. I showed him every paper, every lawsuit, every record, and then her voice completely breaks. Then he changed. He got furious. Mom, he yelled horrible things at me. He said I was an idiot, that I should be grateful that someone like him wanted to marry me. He said that he was going to get his way anyway, that you would have to pay eventually because you're my mother, and that's what mothers do. I feel the rage boiling in me again, but I keep my voice controlled. Where are you now? She sobs. In my apartment. He left furious. He told me that if I canceled, he would sue me for the expenses his family incurred. Mom, I don't know what to do. The wedding is in 3 days. There are so many things I want to tell her. I want to yell at her that this is exactly what I tried to prevent, that if she had listened to me, none of this would have happened. I want to remind her of every insult she threw at me, every time she chose Damien over me. But when I hear her desperate crying, when I hear my broken and scared girl on the other end of the line, those words vanish. Because I am her mother, and mothers don't say I told you so when their children are suffering. Mothers hug, protect, even when they don't deserve it. Melissa, listen to me carefully. Damien has a key to your apartment. She hesitates. Yes, but I interrupt her. Tonight, call an emergency locksmith, no matter what it costs, and tomorrow, first thing in the morning, cancel the wedding. I'll take care of any lawsuit he tries. I have lawyers who will make him regret that he was ever born if he dares to bother you. Melissa cries harder. But what am I going to say? We already sent the invitations. I interrupt her again. Let them talk. Let them say whatever they want. It's better to be the woman who canceled a wedding than the woman who married the wrong man. There is a long silence. Then Melissa asks in a small, almost childish voice, Can I come to your place, Mom? I don't want to be alone tonight. Every fiber of my being wants to say yes. It wants to open my arms and my home to her. But a wiser part of me knows that this is a crucial moment. If I give in now, if I completely rescue her without her facing any consequences, we will return to the same pattern. She will continue to think that she can treat me however she wants, and I will always be there to clean up the mess. So, I say something that costs me more than anything else in my life. No, Melissa, not tonight. Tonight you need to be with yourself. Think about the decisions you made, how you got here. Tomorrow, if you want, we can talk. But it has to be a real conversation, not just you crying and me comforting you. A conversation where you acknowledge the damage you did to me, where you take responsibility for your actions. The silence that follows is so heavy it hurts. Finally, Melissa whispers, It's okay, you're right. I'm sorry, Mom. I'm sorry for everything, and hangs up. I don't sleep that night. I stare at the phone, wondering if I did the right thing, if I was too harsh, if I should call her back. But Richard, whom I call at 3 in the morning in a panic, tells me that, Gilda, you love her too much to keep letting her mistreat you. Sometimes true love means setting boundaries, even if it hurts. You're right, I know, but that doesn't make it any easier. The next morning at 9 o'clock, my phone rings. It's Albert, my lawyer. Gilda, I just received a call from Melissa. She asked me to help her cancel the wedding and legally protect herself from Damien. Do you want me to proceed? A huge relief floods me. Yes, Albert, and give her all the help she needs and send the bill to me. Albert pauses. She specifically asked me not to charge you. She said she would pay, even if she has to do it in installments for years. She said it's time for her to start taking responsibility for her own decisions. My eyes fill with tears. Maybe, just maybe, my daughter is finally starting to grow up. Maybe this terrible crisis was exactly what she needed to wake up. The next 2 days are a whirlwind. Albert works tirelessly to cancel all contracts, negotiate with vendors, and prepare legal documents to protect Melissa from any retaliation from Damien. I observe from a distance, resisting the urge to intervene directly, letting Melissa handle this with Albert's guidance, but without me solving everything. Celine keeps me informed. Melissa sent a message to all the guests canceling the wedding, citing irreconcilable differences without giving further details. Damien, Henry tells me in another discreet call, is furious and threatens to sue, but his own father is pressuring him to keep quiet because he doesn't want his criminal history to become public. On the day that would have been the wedding, I wake up with a strange weight in my chest. I wonder how Melissa is, if she's okay, if she regrets her decision. At 10 in the morning, someone knocks on my door. When I open it, I come face to face with my daughter. She is simply dressed in jeans and a white blouse without makeup, her hair tied back in a messy ponytail. She looks vulnerable, young, scared. Nothing like the arrogant woman who demanded a house and a car from me just a month ago. We stare at each other for a moment that seems eternal. Then, Melissa speaks, and her voice is barely a whisper. Can I come in? I step aside without saying anything. She enters and sits on the same sofa where weeks ago she handed me that terrible list of demands. But now she is hunched over, small, broken. I sit across from her and wait. I know she needs to be the one to speak first. Melissa looks at her hands for a long time before finally looking up at me. I don't know where to start. There are so many things I need to tell you, so many apologies I should ask for, that words feel insufficient. She pauses, breathing deeply, but I'm going to try. Mom, all my life you gave me everything, everything. And I took it as if it were my right, as if you were obliged to give me anything I wanted. I never wondered where the money came from. I never wondered how much it cost you, how much you sacrificed. I just assumed that you would always be there, that you would always be there, no matter how I treated you. Tears start to fall down her cheeks. When Damien came into my life, he made me feel special. He told me that I deserved the best, that I shouldn't settle for less, and I believed him. I thought you were selfish for not giving me the wedding of my dreams. Her voice completely breaks. But the truth is, I was the selfish one. I was the one who never loved you enough, because if I had truly loved you, I would have valued your sacrifices. I would have seen how hard you worked to give me the life I had. I would have been grateful instead of demanding. She covers her face with her hands. I am disgusting. And the worst part, Mom, is that when you denied me what I asked for, I said horrible things to you. I told you you were dead to me. I publicly humiliated you on social media. I let Damien and his parents treat you like trash in your own home. And you, even after all that, you saved me. Even though I didn't deserve it, even though I had hurt you deeply, you saved me from marrying that monster. She looks up at me, her eyes red and swollen. I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect us to go back to what we were because honestly, what we were wasn't healthy. I was a parasite and you were my willing victim. But I want you to know that I am going to change. I've already started. I got a job, a real one in an office. It doesn't pay much, only $200 a month, but it's honest. I moved to a smaller apartment that I can pay for myself. I sold half of my designer clothes to pay off the debts I accumulated. And I'm going to therapy because I need to understand why I became this terrible person. I stare at her, processing every word. Part of me wants to hug her, forgive her immediately, tell her that everything is okay. But the wiser part, the one that has painfully learned that love without limits is destructive, knows that I need to be careful. Finally, I speak. Melissa, I appreciate your words, truly, and I'm glad you're taking these steps, but you need to understand that trust is not recovered with an apology. It is recovered with consistent actions over time. I need to see that this change is real, not just something you're doing because you ran out of options. Melissa nods, wiping her tears. I know I'm just asking for the opportunity to show you, with time, that I can be better, that I can be the daughter you deserve. I stand up slowly, feeling the weight of my 70 years in every joint. I walk toward her, and for the first time in months, I touch her head gently. It's okay, daughter. We'll try. Step by step, day by day, without unrealistic expectations, without empty promises, just two women trying to heal what was broken. She takes my hand and kisses it, crying. And although I know the path will be long, although I know there will be setbacks and difficulties, for the first time I feel that perhaps, just perhaps, there is real hope. 3 months pass since that day. 3 months in which Melissa and I see each other once a week for coffee. They are cautious conversations where she tells me about her job, her therapy, her new, modest life. At first, it's awkward, forced, like two strangers trying to find common ground. But little by little, week after week, the conversations become more natural, more honest. She tells me about the difficulties of living on a limited budget, about how she never knew how expensive the life was when I paid for everything. She tells me about her boss, who is demanding but fair, about how for the first time she understands what it means to earn money through hard work. And I listen without judging, without saying, I told you so, simply being present. One afternoon, Melissa arrives at the cafe with something in her hands, a small envelope. She hands it to me with a nervous expression. This is for you. I open it and find a check for $300. I look at her confused. She explains quickly, I know it's barely $300 compared to the millions I took from you over the years, but it's 10% of my first salary. I want to start paying you back, even if it takes me the rest of my life. My eyes fill with tears, not because of the money, but because of what it represents. Responsibility, maturity, a true effort to change. Meanwhile, Selene has become a fundamental part of Montero Imports. Her human resources department is flourishing under her leadership. She has implemented employee wellness programs, improved hiring processes, and most importantly, brought a culture of respect and dignity that was missing. The employees adore her. Richard constantly tells me, seeing Selene flourish, seeing her son Joaquin excelling in his new private school with the educational fund I established, fills me with the satisfaction I never felt giving Melissa money without limits. Because this is different. This is an investment in people who value the opportunity, who work hard, who don't take it for granted. One Saturday, I organize a small gathering at my apartment. I invite Melissa, Selene, and Joaquin. It's the first time they've all been together since everything exploded. The initial tension is palpable. Melissa and Selene look at each other with discomfort, remembering the gap that always existed between them. But then Joaquin, with the innocence of his 10 years, breaks the ice by showing Melissa a science project he made for school. She is genuinely interested, asking him questions, praising his work. And I see something in my daughter's eyes that I never had. Genuine humility. During the dinner, I prepared myself with simple dishes. Melissa asks Selene about her work at the company. Selena enthusiastically tells her about the projects she is developing, the challenges she faces, and Melissa listens, truly listens, without that air of superiority she used to have. At one point, Melissa says something that surprises me. Selene, I always treated you badly. I always saw you as less than me because you had less money. But now I realize that you were always a better person than me. You worked hard, raised your son alone, never asked anyone for anything you couldn't return. I, on the other hand, was a spoiled parasite. Selene looks at her surprised and then, with her characteristic gentleness, replies, Melissa, we all make mistakes. The important thing is to learn from them. And from what I see, you are learning. They hug, and I see something healing in that moment, not just between them, but in our entire broken family dynamic. After Celine and Joaquin leave, Melissa stays to help me wash the dishes. We work in comfortable silence for a while, and then she says, without looking at me, Ma, I saw the news about the company. I saw who you really are, and I understand why you kept it a secret for so long. You wanted me to value things, not to grow up thinking that money solves everything. She stops, drying her hands on a dish towel. You failed at that, I won't lie. I grew up being exactly what you feared, but it wasn't your fault. It was mine. I look at her intently. Melissa, we both made mistakes. I gave you too much without teaching you responsibility. I rescued you from every consequence instead of letting you learn. I thought I was being a good mother, but in reality, I was creating a gilded cage for both of us. She nods. I know now, and I hope that someday, when I have children, I remember this lesson, that I can love them without spoiling them, that I can give them without destroying them. We finish cleaning the kitchen together, and when she leaves that night, she gives me a long, genuine hug that reminds me of when she was little and would hug me before bed. Thank you, Mom, she whispers. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I had given up on you. After she leaves, I sit in my rocking chair looking at the photographs on the wall. The same photographs I looked at months ago with a broken heart, but now I see them differently. I see a story of imperfect love, of mistakes and learning, of falling and getting up, and I see hope that it is still possible to build something new on the ruins of what broke. 6 months have passed since I canceled the $20,000 monthly allowance, since Melissa told me I was dead to her, since my world fell apart and was rebuilt in a completely different way. Today is a special day. Today, Montero Import celebrates its 30th anniversary, and for the first time in 3 decades, I will be publicly at the forefront acknowledging my role as founder and CEO. The event takes place in an elegant ballroom at the city's best hotel. There are more than 200 people, business partners, employees, media representatives, local authorities. Everyone is there to celebrate the success of the company I built from scratch, with barely $15,000 and a broken heart. I wear an elegant silver suit, my hair is professionally styled, and for the first time in my life, I allow myself to look like the successful businesswoman I have always been, but kept hidden. When I enter the ballroom on Richard's arm, there is a deafening applause. People stand up, looking at me with respect, with admiration, with recognition. And I, who spent 30 years hiding, finally accept this moment. Finally, I allow myself to shine. Richard takes the microphone first and tells the story of how we met, how a young widow with a small child came to his office with a business proposal handwritten in a worn notebook. I could have rejected her, he says with an emotional voice. Many did, but there was something in her eyes, a fierce determination that told me this woman was going to succeed, with or without my help, and I was fortunate to say yes. Then it's my turn to speak. I walk to the podium, feeling all eyes on me. I look out at the audience, and my eyes stop at a particular group. Celine is there with Joaquin, both elegantly dressed, smiling at me with genuine pride. And next to them, with tears in her eyes, is Melissa, my daughter, who decided to come, even though I didn't specifically invite her, who is here to support me at this important moment. Our eyes meet, and she nods slightly, giving me strength. I take a deep breath and begin to speak. 30 years ago, I was nobody. I was a widow without a college education, without important contacts, without anything except a small daughter to feed and an impossible dream. People told me it was crazy, that I should get a normal job, that I should settle, but I refused to settle. I pause, letting my words resonate in the silent room. I built this company, working entire nights while my daughter slept, skipping meals to invest every cent in inventory, learning languages with library books because I couldn't afford classes. It wasn't glamorous, it wasn't easy. There were times when I thought I wouldn't make it, but I kept going because I had something that many entrepreneurs don't have. I had a daughter to protect, a daughter to give a better future to. Tears start to roll down my cheeks, but I don't wipe them away. I let them flow freely. For 30 years, I kept my success a secret because I was afraid that my daughter would grow up differently, afraid that money would corrupt her, afraid of not being enough. And in that process, I made mistakes. I gave her too much without teaching her responsibility. I protected her from the consequences until she no longer knew how to face them. I thought I was being a good mother, but in reality, I was creating a golden prison for both of us. I looked directly at Melissa, who was crying openly now. But something beautiful emerged from the pain. My daughter and I had to completely lose each other to find each other. We had to destroy the toxic relationship. We had to build something real, something based on mutual respect instead of dependence. I turned my gaze now to Celine, and in the process, I discovered that family is not just blood. It's who values you, who works with you, who respects you. Celine and her son Joaquin taught me that investing in the right people, in those who value opportunities, is the best decision any entrepreneur can make. The audience applauds, but I raise my hand for silence to finish. Today, we celebrate 30 years of Montero Imports, but more importantly, today we celebrate something deeper, the truth. The truth that we don't need to hide to protect ourselves. The truth that setting boundaries is not selfishness, it is self-love. The truth that it is never too late to change, to heal, to build something better on the ruins of what broke. I step down from the podium amidst thunderous applause. Melissa pushes her way through the crowd and hugs me, whispering in my ear, "I'm so proud of you, Mom. And someday I hope you can be proud of me too." I reply with a firm voice, "I'm already proud, daughter." Because the hardest thing is not never falling. The hardest thing is getting up after falling. And you are doing that. Celine joins our hug, and the three of us cry together, healing together, building something new together. That night, when I finally return to my apartment, I sit in my old rocking chair and look at the same photographs I have looked at for months. But now, I don't see failure. I see learning. I see growth. I see imperfect love that transformed into something stronger. My phone rings with a message from Melissa. "Thank you for teaching me that sometimes losing everything is the only way to find what truly matters. I love you, Mom, really." I smile, wiping away the last tears, and reply, "I love you too, daughter. And I'm here. I'll always be here, but now on my own terms, with healthy boundaries, with mutual respect." I turn off the lights and go to sleep, feeling something I hadn't felt in decades. Peace. Peace from knowing that I finally valued myself enough to say no. Peace from knowing that true love doesn't mean sacrificing yourself until you disappear. Peace from knowing that it is never too late to reclaim your life, your dignity, your power. I gave everything for love, but I learned that love without respect is a prison. Today I am free, surrounded by those who value me, and that freedom is worth more than any fortune.